totoo po niyan, this representation requested a copy of her resolution. Hindi po niya ako binigyan. Ang sinabi po niya, you are not party to the case. Who is party to the case, Mr. President? Ang sabi pa po niya, she gave a copy to the Blue Ribbon Committee. So this representation, nagpakuha po, nag-request sa Blue Ribbon Committee. Sabi ng Blue Ribbon Committee, we have no copy of that resolution. So sino po binigyan niya? Regular po ba yun? Where is the presumption of regularity here? Sabi niya, hindi ako party. Hindi ko naman sinabing party po ako, but party po ako ng Blue Ribbon Committee. And I am a Senator of the Republic. Hindi man lang ako bigyan ng resolution. What is so secret? What is so spectacular about this resolution? Bakit po? Why did she lie na binigyan niya Blue Ribbon Committee only to know that she did that? And then we presume that there is regularity in her action. Why? Mr. President.
Well, according to the court administrator, the executive judge, they would assume knows her responsibilities, is aware of her role, her responsibility, and the authority given to her as custodian of the said documents. And that's where the presumption of regularity of her actions kick in, Mr. President.
Mr. President, the presumption is disputable, isn't it?
Definitely, it's just a presumption.
We are disputing the presumption, Mr. President. Napakarami ko pong sinabi. We were only asking for samples within which to compare the signature in Guteza's document. Siya pa ang mag-select until we were given now the right to examine all this. We requested for a resolution, a copy of a resolution. Ayaw po niya akong bigyan because I am not a party to it. Who is the party? I checked with the intermediary of Guteza. Ang sabi sa kanyang resolution, meron daw po subpoena kay Guteza. The family said there was no notice, there was no subpoena that reached our residence. Ito po ang nangyayari. May problema po ba tayo, Mr. President? Dapat po siguro tinutulungan natin ang mga taong nagkukusa para tumulong, para hanapin ang katotohanan. Kahit na malagay sa alanganin, sa panganib ang kanyang buhay. Pero anong nakuha niya? Sino po ngayon ang magnanais pa na lumabas kahit may nalalaman siya na tumulong para matuntun natin kung sino may kasalanan? Walang iniwan sa isang tao na pumunta sa barangay, Mr. President. Nagsumbong. Yung pong taong yun, Mr. Barangay Captain, magnanakaw po yun ang kalabaw. Alam po ninyo kung sino yung diniscredit, kung sino yung inusig. Yung nagsumbog na may magnanakaw ng kalabaw. Yung magnanakaw ng kalabaw, hindi man lang.
Mr. President, I share the frustration of Senator Marcoleta. I remember the case of the ZTE-NBN, wherein the whistleblower ended up being the one convicted. Yes, this is most unfortunate when instances wherein those who are who wish to testify or witnesses suffer such a unfortunate situation.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court time and again has admonished notaries who fully entrusted the notarization process to their office secretaries, like what happened here, and has even deemed it as gross negligence on their part, as in the case of Castello versus Ching, AC number 11165, February 6, 2017. Ang sabi po ng Korte Suprema ay ganito. Gross negligence on the part of a notary public encompasses the failure to observe any of the requirements of a notarial act under the 2004 rules of notarial service, notarial practice, which would result in putting the rights of a person to his liberty or property in jeopardy. This includes, among others, failing to require the presence of the signatories to a notarial instrument and ascertaining their identities through competent evidence thereof, and allowing knowingly or unknowingly people other than notary public himself to sign notarial documents, affix the notarial seal therein, and make entries in the notarial register. This is what exactly happened. This notary public allowed their signature to be signed by others. To use their notarial seal by others and make entries in the notarial register. Hindi siya mismo. Isipin po niyo yung lugar niya. Pinakunan namin ng litrato. Ano po yung nakapaskel doon sa isang maliit na opisina na yun? Tabi ng kalsada. Dikit-dikit ang mga notarial offices. Alam po ba niyo yung nakalagay na sign? Affidavit. Notarial affidavit. 24/7. So, hindi na natutulog yung abogada ron kung siya nga yung nandun. Ilan na pong mga notaryo publiko ang na-admonish o kaya nasuspindi o kaya nasira, inalis sa notarial practice, Mr. President. Kasi po ang kanilang mga sekretarya na lang o mga staff ang talagang, yun naman po ang nangyayari, kalakaran na po yun eh. I think even the Supreme Court can take judicial notice of this particular industry.
Our apologies, good Senator. I was just clarifying a matter regarding whether or not Attorney Espera did delegate. Of course, that is a accusation or a allegation, rather. And if proved to be true, then definitely Espera should be held to account for that. And therefore, perhaps one's route should be to ask to have Attorney Espera, the notarial, the notary public, to explain whether or not she in fact did that. Of course.
Kasi po, Mr. President, yung ninotaryohan na kontrata ng PESA, ganun din po yung pirma. Si Attorney, sino yung Comelec? Romy Macalintal. Nung makita niya po yung dokumento ni Guteza na yung pirma gano'n, kapareho din ito yung mga ipinresent nila rito, yung intervenor sa isang barangay. Ang dami po nito. Kapareho din po yun eh. Kaya po, tinatanong ko, ilan na po yung nasuspindi kaya? Ilan na yung na-reprimand? Ilan na yung kinastigo ng Korte Suprema? Baka naman po, mangilan-ngilan lang, kaya po siguro naging cottage industry na po ito eh. Gaano po tayo kaingat yung pagbabantay sa ganitong mga ginagawa ng ating mga abogadong nagnonotaryo po, Mr. President?
According to the court administrator, marami na raw na suspend, no? Na notary public dahil dito sa ganitong mga hindi tamang mga kilos at very serious ang Korte Suprema sa ganitong mga usapin when it comes to notarial commissions and such acts, such malpractices.
Gano'n na po kaya karami, Mr. President? Kasi po kung ibabatay natin sa mga notary publics na nagkalat na po, parang mga kabuti na nagsulputan sa napakaraming mga lugar, lalong-lalo na po sa mga mataong lugar. Diyan lang po sa City Hall po, wag na tayong lumayo, makikita po ninyo yung dikit-dikit na nagnunotaryo na wala po kayong makikitang abogado ron. Yung iba po, itatakbo pa nga sa eskinita, pagkatapos hintayin mo ako riyan. Pagkatapos mong magbayad ng kaulang halaga, tsaka niya ibabalik sa'yo. Gano'n po karami?
Wala daw po ngayon, right now, ang numero. They will be submitting.
So, Mr. President, ina-assume po natin yung dami po ng nagnunotaryo ngayon na dikit-dikit sa paligid ng mga city halls ng ating bansa. Lahat po ba yon ang pumipirma yung mga abogado?
Under the law and the commission, dapat.
Dapat
Now,
po.
Yes.
Pero sa nangyayari, sa totoong buhay, sila po ba yung nandoon na nagnunotaryo, Mr. President?
Well, dapat din under the law, pero yung realidad,
Hindi po, hindi ba?
maaaring ang merong dinedelegate.
Yun nga po eh. Si Guteza ay biktima po rito. Siya po yung nabiktima rito. Pero siya ngayon ang kakasuhan ng falsification, ng perjury. Ang tanging kasalanan niya ay lumabas lamang at nagpasya para tulungan ang Estado hanapin kung sino ang utak ng makawalang hiya ang nangyari sa ating bansa. Mr. President, mag-iba naman po tayo ng area. Medyo na-high blood po si Congressman Sherwin. Kapag kaibigan ko po kasi yan, pagkaya na hindi kumikibo, ako po medyo kinakabahan. Senator pala, pasensya ka na. Ako na high blood hata. Kamakailan po ay nagpalabas po at nag-approve ang ating Korte Suprema, Mr. President, ng rules on extradition proceedings, which I think took effect on November 10, 2025. Tama po ba yun, Mr. President?
That is correct, Senator Marcoleta.
May I know, Mr. President, that, or do these rules apply only when there is an existing extradition treaty between the Philippines and the requesting state?
That the court administrator says yes, answers in the affirmative.
In the absence of an extradition treaty, Mr. President, is there any legal process that the Philippines may rely on to surrender a Filipino citizen?
Apart from a treaty between two states, if there are conventions that we are party to as a member state, such as Inter.
So the lack of it, Mr. President, completely bar any form of extradition or surrender by implication.
By way of extradition, yes.
Okay. The rules refer to a requesting state with whom the Philippines has an extradition treaty. If the requesting entity is not a state per se, Mr. President, such as the international tribunals, o sabihin na nating ICC, do these rules still apply?
Strictly speaking, no, because the ICC is not a state.
So where do we stand now? Because ICC is not a state, and we have our own constitution. And there is, for example, a warrant of arrest issued by the ICC. But under our constitution, No person shall be deprived of life, liberty of property without due process of law. Which will prevail, the ICC or our own constitution?
Yes, as earlier manifested by the court administrator, the extradition treaty, the extradition rules does not apply to the ICC, but there may be other international conventions or agreements that the Philippines is a party to that may apply. But again, they have not identified which of these possible conventions, which of these conventions, if any, would be applicable.
Wala naman international conventions, Mr. President. As a matter of fact, the Philippines just withdrew from the Rome Statute. Na anong basis nila ngayon? Ang nakalagay po sa ating, meron po tayong batas Republic Act 9851 po yata yun, if I'm not mistaken. Na pwede mo lamang i-process for extradition or surrender or whatever it is. First of all, what is the difference between surrender and extradition? Except for the spelling, Mr. President.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. I was clarifying with the indulgence of the senator.
Yes.
What was the?
Ano po yung pagkakaiba bukod sa spelling ng extradition at surrender in the context of Republic Act 9851?
Well, the international humanitarian law is a law applicable to the Philippines. And it's between the state and its citizens as well as other parties, while the extradition treaty is a treaty between two states. So surrender or extradition will take different meanings given these three or four different how do you call it, rules. So rules on extradition proceeding will be is defined thereat, while the international humanitarian law in terms of surrender under that law will also be defined by the provisions of that law.
I'm sorry, Mr. President, if I will disagree. Yung extradition, mabagal po yun. Yung surrender, mabilis. Kaya po nang ginawa kay dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte. Does the principle of complementarity allow the Philippines to decline surrender on the ground that domestic institutions are able and willing to investigate and prosecute?
Yes, the court administrator is constrained to reply with the questions, a number of the questions raised, but she assures the good senator that she will answer as best she can, given the limitations that the matter is sub judice. And we have three justices of the Supreme Court present here who are currently hearing a number of cases by petitioner, our colleague, Senator Bato de la Rosa. So in that regard, they beg the indulgence of the good senator that it being sub judice, they would refrain from giving opinions outside of the rules on extradition proceedings.
Mr. President, am I made to understand that we can only request for, let's say, clarifications or answers lingering in our minds from the court in the actual litigation and not in a case like this where this is also a good chance to be able to take advantage of the teaching function of the Supreme Court. Kailangan bang nasa korte tayong lahat and there is an active case being litigated? Is this not a proper forum for the Supreme Court to also advise us, to help us in the context of being able to, let's say, lay down the foundation of a budget that will cater to most people?
In this case, according to the court administrator, they are not they are prohibited from of issuing opinions on a case that is pending before it, and that they are limited to rendering opinions within the parameters and framework of the pending case.
Bakit naman parang selective, Mr. President? Alam po ninyo, napakaraming mga ongoing cases. Yung mga abogado po, palagi pong napagsasabihan, lalo na po yung mga trial lawyers na yung ating sub judice. Talaga pong, kung kayo po ay nag-aaral pa lang ng batas, first year ka pa lang, alam nyo na yung sub judice. Talagang, Sir President, pangangatawanan mo yan eh. Pagka ang isang kaso ay talagang dinidinig na, huwag kayong magko-comment. Estudyante ka pa lang, ha? Huwag kang magko-comment. Kasi baka napakagaling mo, ma-influensya mo yung Korte Suprema. Di ba, Mr. President? We rely on the objectivity, the competence, and the fortitude of the members of the Supreme Court. They are there because of that. Nai-influensya mo po ba? Can we influence the good justices of the Supreme Court?
It is not a matter of whether the justices can be influenced or not, but more that if they issue opinions outside of the process that is of the case that is pending, that it may affect their standing in terms of the perception that they may be partial for one or another party. So therefore, they refrain from providing legal opinions on matters that are sub judice.
Hindi po ganun ang aking pagkakaintindi, Mr. President. Ang mga justices ng Korte Suprema, kahit nasan sila, kahit nasa palengke sila, nasa punerarya, kung nasa man, hindi magbabago yun. Ang batas palaging ganun. Kahit anong sabihin natin, our opinion will not even matter. Ang pinag-uusapan natin ay kung paano tayo makakahingi ng konting tulong sa kanila upang lahat ng ating alalahanin ngayon, para hindi nagtatalo-talo, halimbawa, mabigyan nyo na kami ng pangunahing guideline, halimbawa. Bakit naman po kung, halimbawa, retired justice na ng Korte Suprema, aktibo yung kaso, pinag-uusapan pa lang, meron silang column sa dyaryo, pero nagsusulat pa rin sila eh. Pero sila yung unang nagsabi sa amin, wag ninyo yuyurakan ng sub judice. Mananagot kayo dyan. Pero kapag ka sila, dahil ba retiradong Supreme Court justices na sila, malaya na silang magkomento? Ano yun itinuturo ninyo? Hindi rin nangyayari. Meron po mga double standards, Sir President.